This is Marco Reus.
This is Shinji Kagawa.
This is Nuri Sahin.
Hello, this is Jadon Sancho.
And you're listening to the Yellowwallpod podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 353 of the Yellowwallpod. I'm your host Stefan Butzko, and today we will talk about Borussia Dortmund's 2020 and we will also preview next year's game against VfL Wolfsburg, and of course we will also briefly speak about the cup match against Eintracht Braunschweig, which Dortmund won 2-0. And for all that and more, joins me Matthias Zug. Hello, Matthias. I hope you had happy holidays. What did you get?
I had a very good Christmas. I got a new coffee mug because with me it's books, mugs, and alcohol. You know, that just makes me happy at this point in my life. So, no complaints there. How are you guys doing?
Well, first I have to ask: do you have a license for your new weapon? Since your microphone is armed.
Nice. Well played. I thought I'm the dad here with the dad jokes, but, I guess I underestimated you, Stefan. Yes, no, I have a mic stand and an arm and a new microphone, but those are kind of early birthday presents more than late Christmas presents.
Also here, Lars Pollmann. Hello, Lars. What did you get from Santa?
Well, Santa doesn't exist, Stefan.
Sorry, the Christkind, of course.
Sorry to burst your bubble, neither does the Christkind, but I got more sleep than usual, which is fine.
Anywho, so Lars, since you are obviously the happiest from the three of us, you can now go ahead and summarize the Borussia Dortmund 2020 for yourself if you want. What stood out, what didn't, etc.
I would say, all in all, a disappointing year. I think looking back on, this time last year, because we are recording on the penultimate day of the year, I think if you told us that Dortmund would finish 2020 without a trophy, I guess that would have been par for the course pretty much. But, instability at the coaching position, out of the Champions League spots in the Bundesliga to finish off the year, and not a lot of, great memories, I think. Obviously a few good games. The Erling Haaland experience, which started, I think, on December 29th, 2019, officially last season when they signed him. Obviously been a very bright spot, but overall, I think I'm not being too pessimistic or, too Debbie Downer if I say that this wasn't necessarily a stellar year for Dortmund, or indeed for, I guess, anyone with, COVID and no fans in the stands and a lot of, off the field stuff that kind of makes enjoying football a bit more difficult even than it was enjoying Dortmund most of the year anyway.
Yeah, if I think back about the year, I think the things that I will remember is obviously that Dortmund signed Erling Haaland and he scoring 5 goals in the first 57 minutes of his Dortmund career. And obviously the 8 million Jadon Sancho transfer rumors that we had to deal with, and then Michael Zorc announcing, what was it, August or so? I think so, because me and my wife were in Cape Cod at the time. That Sancho, by the way, he extended his contract till 2023, which was great news at the time that he wouldn't be sold. And then obviously kind of funny almost that Jadon Sancho didn't score too many goals after that in the next season. And obviously I do remember the Champions League tie against PSG, the 2-1 win, which was a very cool game. And then obviously we had the second leg in Paris, which was the first without any fans in the stands. So kind of memorable as well. And then obviously the entire hiatus. And I think when Dortmund came back in, what was it, May or so, then they shellacked Schalke 4-0. And yeah. Still a very weird season, Matthias. Lars already talked about where Dortmund are right now and how things are a little unsatisfying. How do you view the Borussia Dortmund year 2020? I might actually add that it's also the year where Marco Reus, suffered a season-ending injury, etc., etc.
Yeah, I mean it's weird. Obviously, with the global pandemic kind of looming over everything, it just simply makes for a very, to say at least, very weird, chaotic year overall. Obviously, Erling Haaland, the hottest striker commodity in Europe, deciding to join Borussia Dortmund was a huge win for the club, and was a highlight. And you kind of expected, things are going to look up. And overall, they weren't bad. They weren't great. I'd say for Dortmund, now looking where Dortmund sit now in the table, you would have to say a slightly below BVB average calendar year. But I still think about the lost opportunity against PSG in the second leg of the Champions League. But again, that was right when all this COVID and no fans and everything was just weird kind of time frame. I'm not saying Dortmund would have gone on and replaced PSG in the Champions League final to lose against Bayern. But I feel like that was one of the biggest lost or missed opportunities. So, and then Lucien Favre getting sacked obviously didn't add any luster to the year, at least not for me. I mean, I know there's some people that are reveling in it, and I just find that a little bit sad, but that's just my take on it. So, yeah, overall, kind of not a bad year, definitely not a great year. I'd say a slightly below average year for Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah, I think we can all agree with that. Lars, quickly, what was your favorite 2020 Borussia Dortmund moment / game?
Oh, I'm notoriously bad with those, so I'll just remember 2020 as the year everybody realized Rafael Guerreiro is the best non-Bayern player in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, I think that's a very nice memory, actually, and a nice revelation also for Rafael Guerreiro himself, I guess. Matthias, what's yours?
I'd probably have to say the most memorable game. I mean, aside from Haaland coming off the bench, I think it was against Augsburg and scoring a hat trick. That was kind of impressive. But then, the Paderborn match, not just because of a complete team performance, but obviously because of the Black Lives Matters and I guess, I don't want to call it protests, but basically the activism around it that I think were very, very important in the context of the world then and now and in future.
Yeah, definitely. My moment of the year is obviously... Lars, what can we take away from this cup game against Eintracht Braunschweig? I guess the only notable takeaway for me, at least, is that Terzic called up Steffen Tigges instead of playing Marco Reus or someone else up front. So he sort of wanted to play a striker in the striker position instead of a midfielder. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. So Matthias, VfL Wolfsburg are obviously in fourth place and an immediate chance for the Black and Yellows to regain that position. Dortmund can hopefully count on the services of Erling Haaland again, and Yusuf Moukoko should also have overcome his knee problems. So, after a little break, do you think that Dortmund will turn around their form against Wolfsburg?
Well, I think they can. Wolfsburg aren't necessarily known as being overly prolific in front of goal, but being extraordinarily solid defensively. Obviously, the last time they met, Dortmund won the match, but Dortmund were in better form at the time, higher level of confidence, and obviously had Lucien Favre in charge instead of Edin Terzic. That's not to say anything anti-Terzic, but just everything was more settled at that time. Right now, a lot of things are a little bit up in the air. That being said, having Haaland back is going to be a huge win. Clearly, not having a designated striker was a massive issue for Dortmund when you look at off-the-ball movement, positioning, getting out of cover shadows, stuff like that, stuff that Holland excels at that was just not there without him. It adds a completely different dimension to it. Also, what Wolfsburg have to do defensively. That being said, of course, Wout Weghorst, in my opinion, is an extraordinarily good striker who, outside of probably Bundesliga circles, is honestly underrated. I think he's one of the best strikers in the Bundesliga. And as such, that does concern me. I think Dortmund can get hurt by Wolfsburg if they're not on their A game. But this short break, I believe, is extraordinarily beneficial. Yes, it was only, a week, 10 days or something like that. But it was very, very important for everybody to just kind of chill, let their bodies heal. Even just a short period of time, it helps. And obviously with the Christmas festivities in between, to just kind of, turn your brain off a little bit, be with your close family or whatever, and just refocus a little bit. And I think Dortmund needed that more than any other team in the top 5 or 6.
Yeah, Wout Weghorst has scored 9 goals this season, which is almost half of their 20 league goals, which makes their attack I guess tied 10th best together with Hertha and Freiburg. And goals against is a little bit better for Wolfsburg. They've only conceded 13 so far in as many match days, meaning their defense is, I think, the 3rd best in the league. Dortmund's tied 4th best with Union Berlin, which is not good enough for Dortmund, simply put. Lars, what do you expect of this game? And do you think we will already see a little bit more of what Edin Terzic's idea is, or not at all, since everyone has probably been busy celebrating Christmas, etc.?
Well, unless I'm mistaken, they've not really had a single tactics or whatever you want to call it unit under Terzic still. I'm not convinced they have done anything since the Christmas holidays, so I think that will come over time. I think obviously they have a lot of games in 2021, but there's a bit more of a distance between most of them than there has been over the last few weeks or months, with the late start in the Champions League and an English week, as we say in Germany, basically 2 months without end. So I would expect Terzic's idea to come through a bit, later on in early 2021. I think generally against Wolfsburg, as Matthias said, the small break should work in Dortmund's favor because they desperately needed one. I think that was painfully obvious in some of these matches, even under Terzic, where you did see a bit more energy, at least in some of the players. I wouldn't say in all of them. So having, a couple of days off even and no fixture this weekend or the last weekend, I think that should be beneficial to Dortmund. And I also think that it kind of helps to have a bit of time away to really refocus and, kind of look at where you are. I think Dortmund haven't been up to their standards basically since lockdown ended in the Bundesliga, at home especially. I mean, I think they've lost their last 3 home games in the Bundesliga. They lost 3, I think, at the end of last season. So that's more home defeats in 2020 in the Bundesliga than Dortmund, should have over a period of 2 or 3 years. So, having time off to refocus and get your mindset back on where it needs to be for every game and not just the highlight games. I think that should be a positive for Dortmund, but I do think Wolfsburg are a difficult opponent. As you guys said, they are extremely solid defensively. I think they have, outside of Bayern, the best fullbacks in the league, with the likes of Riedle Baku, for example, on the right side. So I think this is going to be another tough nut to crack, but one that Dortmund, if they are serious, and obviously they need to be serious about it, are serious about, making the Champions League this season, which is paramount because of, COVID restrictions financially, then this is the kind of home game against presumably a direct opponent that they need to win.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They have to win this game. It's an absolute must-win game. I think Dortmund are. I think the numbers will probably be corrected again, but the latest I think Watzke said is that Dortmund will probably lose about 70 million and probably more than that, just due to COVID. So that's obviously a big chunk of money. And if Dortmund then also lose out on the Champions League money, it's going to be a very difficult summer where they will have to, I don't know, correct for that in a way that they probably need to let go of some players that they otherwise wouldn't like to let go of. So a lot of things are at stake for Dortmund in this season, I would say. So the program right now is, I think, don't they play Wolfsburg, Leipzig, Mainz, and then have a double header with Leverkusen and Gladbach or something like that? So in the Bundesliga, Dortmund's next weeks will be the weeks of truth, as they always like to say in Germany, die Wochen der Wahrheit. So I'm really interested how Dortmund will fare, especially since I don't expect Wolfsburg and the other teams, except for Mainz, obviously, to just sit back and try to hit Dortmund on the counterattack. So maybe the afforded extra space helps Dortmund. Usually Dortmund perform better against teams that want to participate in the football game than teams that do not. So I'm kind of looking forward to this game, but I'm also not picking Dortmund as towering favorites and thinking they will win because, as you said, Wolfsburg are a tough nut to crack. Matthias, any wishes for the lineup? Obviously, Haaland will be back, and I think it's not a big surprise that it's a massive boost when the, I guess, second best striker in the world returns to your team.
Well, I mean, aside from the obvious in Holland, like you just described, if there wouldn't have been a break and it just would have kept on going, I said, okay, Sancho needs a rest, Guerrero needs a rest, Reina needs a rest. Well, everyone's had their rest now. And I'd kind of like to see where everyone's head is. And so, starting with a Sancho and a Reina, or Sancho and Reus, I wouldn't mind seeing what Brandt can do. One of the key things, though, against Wolfsburg is there needs to be somebody centrally, be it in the number 10 spot or in the double pivot, that is actually able. Yeah, that's almost like capable and able in the new word, able to play a creative defense unlocking pass. So that would be my big hope and wish there, that it goes beyond just having static players, but actually having a more dynamic playmaker in there, be that a Brandt in a deeper position, which I think will help him, or a Mahmoud Dahoud, but somebody like that. We can't just put out another team that is, Bellingham and Witsel with Reus in the number 10, because then you just don't have any type of creativity when it comes to playing a pass. And knowing how strong Wolfsburg are defensively, you desperately need that. So my wish is Brandt and or Dahoud to be in that starting lineup, either in the number 10 or in the double pivot.
Your thoughts, Lars?
Honestly, I'm kind of thinking, just play whoever you think is in the best shape plus mindset for this game. I think, as we have established, the margin of error for Dortmund is pretty slim at this point in the season. I mean, if Wolfsburg beat them at home, you are definitely looking at an uphill climb for, Champions League football next season. So, it makes not too much sense from my perspective to, have preconceived notions over who in theory should be best suited to face Wolfsburg, when in reality, Dortmund have enough players, regardless of, a couple of personnel decisions, to unlock Wolfsburg's defense and beat them at home. So just go with whoever, makes the most sense in terms of, freshness, energy levels, both physically and mentally. I think that's kind of the way to go for the entirety of 2021, which is like a long sprint not even a marathon, because you don't have breaks anywhere. I mean, more breaks obviously than in the first half of the season, but it's also more games. So I think basically I would appreciate it if Edin Terzic kind of went away from having, like, as I said, preconceived notions, or, you know, Marco Reus as the captain has to play when he's healthy or whatever. I think the only two guys that need to be playing all the time, or three guys actually that need to be playing all the time, are Mats Hummels, Rafael Guerreiro and Erling Haaland, because you have no one else in those positions. Everyone else should be, you know, up for discussion, debate, and, you know, as I said, levels of freshness, both physically and mentally.
Yeah, I really do hope that in 2021 we will see more of Dan-Axel Zagadou. You know, I could even envision a back three with Akanji, Hummels, and Zagadou at times. And then have, I don't know, put Guerrero on the left as a wing back, and let's put Hazard on the right. If you want to go a bit more attacking wise, that's a lineup I could actually see happening, but yeah, probably not going to happen. What is kind of crazy, since this is a Sunday kickoff, I think it's the earlier kickoff in Sunday, that means that Union Berlin could actually leapfrog Dortmund before Dortmund actually kick off, because Berlin play away to Werder Bremen and obviously only 1 point behind Dortmund. And since Union Berlin have a better goal difference right now with +9 than Dortmund's +8, that means a draw will suffice for Union Berlin to be actually ahead of Dortmund. So kind of puts this a little bit into perspective for the Black and Yellows, and hopefully lights a little fire under their butts. Otherwise, I don't really have that much to add, because VfL Wolfsburg are a team that's obviously very physical, have a lot of good technical players. I would say they are usually very central. I mean, you just mentioned their fullbacks, but I always feel like Wolfsburg do play a lot through the middle these days, which is a bit of a opposite to what they used to do, where it was just a million crosses every game. But right now I feel like every time I watch Wolfsburg, they're trying to combine through the middle, and it sort of breaks down. And while Weghorst is a good striker, I don't know if Dortmund need to be too scared of Renato Steffen or Brekalo or so in general. Obviously, I just jinx it, but what also is notable, that I think they have a really good goalkeeper in Colin Castells. I think he has been pretty solid throughout the last 2 seasons or so. But yeah, it's kind of interesting, because how do Dortmund really do fix their home record, Matthias, considering the yellow wall is empty? There are no fans in the stands for the foreseeable future. It's probably likelier that football gets cancelled rather than fans returning, even if vaccine distribution is ramping up these days. So, Matthias, you obviously cannot make up for the lack of fans. So how do you think this team can somehow re-establish their home form, or can they just not?
I mean, honestly, I think home form, away form is really, it almost doesn't matter right now for the reasons that you mentioned. It plays into the hands of some teams and against others. Obviously, for Dortmund, home field advantage is a huge deal. And that is completely gone. And as such, I think it shouldn't be used as either a crutch or an excuse in that sense. I think Dortmund just have to focus on playing better. The advantage that they have is obviously they don't have to travel. I mean, Wolfsburg's not that far away, granted, but still, it's a few hours more that you don't have to worry about traveling to or from a location. So I would hope that is an advantage in and to itself, psychologically and physically. So what they have to do, I mean, Stefan, it's pretty simple. You just have to play better, more consistently and better. I mean, with fans in the stadium or not within the stadium, everybody is at the same advantage or disadvantage right now. I mean, it's the complete leveling of the playing field. It doesn't matter if you are in Freiburg, or you in Dortmund, or you in München. The same amount of fans are in every single stadium. So there is no advantage aside from travel and maybe pitch condition. Pitch condition is not an issue in Dortmund. Travel is not an issue in Dortmund for Borussia Dortmund, obviously. So they have no excuses. They simply have to play better for the course of an entire 90 minutes. And that's all I want to see.
Yeah, I want to see the same, but for the course of an entire freaking year. So go ahead, guys.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
I mean, just one step at a time. If we can get a game and then a series of games and then we can get a month, sure. But right now, I'll settle for 90 minutes.
Fair enough. So since I've pretty much mentally checked out Lars, if you have any final thoughts on this game, be my guest. Otherwise, you can also just move on to predictions.
Well, quickly to your last question, I think they have to hope that not having a settled coaching situation and, generally an unsettled future for a lot of players lights as you said, fire under their butts. And, I want to see more intrinsic motivation from a lot of these players, but particularly the uber talented, Brandts and even Sancho's. I mean, Sancho kind of gets a bad rep, I think, for the season he's having, because he's at least trying to instigate stuff, even if it doesn't come off a lot. But, obviously people know of my love for Julian Brandt, but at the moment, I mean, he looks like a Schluck Wasser in the Kurve, as we would say in Germany. So I think
a swig of water in the corner, if that makes sense for anyone in the bend.
It won't. It won't. But fair enough. I just want to see more, as I said, intrinsic motivation. I think some of these players should feel like and act like this could be their last chance at this level, which obviously it isn't for most of these guys because they're so talented. But still, I think that would be the right mindset for a turnaround job, which is kind of what Dortmund need in the second half of the season, even though it's not even halftime in the Bundesliga and it's not like an insurmountable lead they have to cut into to get back into the top four. But still, it's a bit of a turnaround, and you only achieve that with the right mindset, I think. And as for a prediction, because I haven't seen it so far under Terzic, and Wolfsburg are pretty solid, I'm going for a 1-1 draw.
All right, which wouldn't be a bad result considering Dortmund at least.
It would be, Stefan. It would be. At home, first game of the season, set the tone. If you don't win, that's a bad result.
Well, you're right in that part, but the Lucien Favre in me says you wouldn't lose ground. So, no, you are obviously right in terms of narrative and looking at the upcoming games. I mean, playing Leipzig and Leverkusen won't be much easier, and obviously Dortmund did struggle against Gladbach, not result-wise, but performance-wise in recent matches as well. So, it's going to be interesting. So, Matthias, what's your approach to this game and your prediction?
Well, my prediction is what it has to be. It has to be a win, because as Lars said, anything but a win is a failure, and I completely agree with that. So it has to be a 2-1 victory, and that is the result that I will force upon them through the sheer power of my mind.
Yeah, so basically you're saying the intrinsic motivation will come from you externally. I'm actually a bit more optimistic here. I'm predicting a 3-1 Dortmund win because the Dortmund's backs against the wall narrative is out there a little bit, which sometimes does help to rally the troops, and obviously having a fully fit Erling Haaland does make a difference. And so I guess it's a hopeful prediction, but a 3-1 Dortmund win against this Wolfsburg is also not completely something that we can rule out. So I'm going for this. And so in the meantime, Matthias, how can people follow you on Twitter?
And you can find me on Twitter at Matthiasuk.
Very well, Lars.
You can find me at Lars Pollmann.
And you can follow me at Stefan Butzko on Twitter, and you can follow all of us at Yellowwallpod on Twitter and Facebook. I would also appreciate if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, which you can also find if you just type Yellowwallpod into YouTube, and otherwise subscribe to the show to iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, etc. And obviously, since this is the last show of the year, I want to thank all of our patrons for your support. It really does mean a lot to us, and obviously everyone else for listening. And I'm hoping 2021 will be better, will show a little bit more silverware than 2020. And other than that, since we're already going to be back next week, I wish everyone a happy new year and stay safe. Good. Bye.